Welcome to the newest episode of Beatin' and Bangin'. I'm your host, Kyle Dalton. In today's video, we're going south of the border for a recap of the weekend's races in Mexico, including comments from Kyle Larson on NASCAR forcing the drivers out of their comfort zones and his suggestion for NASCAR to adopt an F1-style post-race celebration at Crown Jewel races in the future. Chase Elliott offering some prophetic words for the race, and Bubba Wallace having a little fun and adopting some of the Mexican culture in his media availability. Plus, we'll talk about the Xfinity Series race and some interesting comments from Carson Hocevar and a Cup Series spotter on Saturday about their time south of the border. And of course, we'll talk about Sunday's race with Shane van Gisbergen overcoming an illness I warned about in Friday's video, and an entertaining race that was filled with plenty of drama, hot tempers, and the New Zealander earning his second Cup Series win. However, before we get to that, let's go back to Friday and media availabilities. And we're going to start with Bubba Wallace, just because you have to see how he entered the media center and what happened. Watch this.
We are now joined by, I think, Bubba Wallace, driver of the number 2311 Toyota. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll get a mic over to you. We'll start right here in the front.
Should I do this the whole time in the mask?
Sure.
That's too hot. This is my altitude training. That's what we established. You all got your pictures, right? We're good.
Perfect.
Hello, Mr. Wallace. Good morning.
Nice to see Wallace having a little fun and adopting the Mexican culture. Next up for media availabilities was Chase Elliott talking about his expectations for the race, which actually turned out to be quite prophetic.
The environment, I think, is really neat. And, to my knowledge, I don't think I've ever raced anywhere that, has that type of section to a racetrack where you exit in between two grandstands like that. So it is really cool. I'll give it to them. They have a really cool setup through there. It's a great place for the fans to watch and kind of see who's in position to win the race, right there coming to the last turn. So, it'd be an awesome place to watch a race, and I'm sure it'll be a good show for them on Sunday. With as slow as we're going to be going and whatnot through there with our cars, I think that it has potential to be pretty rough through that section, right? Just kind of depending upon who you're racing around and what kind of respect is expected or shown from whoever's in position to have an opportunity to run you over.
Did you hear him say pretty rough? He had no idea. And let's conclude our media availability remarks with a couple of interesting comments from Kyle Larson. The first one after he was asked what he liked about his Mexico experience thus far.
For us here, we don't have our motor coaches and all that, so we're all kind of put up in the same place, and got to ride in shuttles together, and it's honestly really fun and enjoyable to be around your competitors and get to know each other a bit better. And because on a typical weekend we just kind of lock ourselves in wherever we're at and we don't talk to anybody or anything. So it's nice that you're almost forced to hang out with each other, and it's cool. You get to know them. So I've enjoyed that.
I really appreciated his candor when admitting how it was nice getting to interact with and getting to know some of his other fellow competitors. But that wasn't all Larson had to say. He was then asked about what he thought NASCAR could take from Mexico and possibly use in the future. Take a listen to this.
I think maybe things will come up tomorrow, and seeing how, driver intros go or the post-race podium and stuff. I think that's, could be an easy piece to incorporate to other weekends.
You referenced the podium celebration earlier. Is that something that you would like to see potentially for all Cup races? Or I think some even suggested maybe the compromise would be doing it for road course races and leaving it as is for others. Is that something that intrigues you, or what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I don't. Maybe just your crown jewel events even would be a good start, but I'm not sure. I come from dirt racing where the top three have to stop on the front stretch every night and do your interview, which we do interviews on pit road and stuff, so that's not way different. But although it stinks sometimes when you're frustrated and you got to force a smile, it's still I think the fans appreciate seeing the top 3 drivers, on the front stretch, and the photos and whatnot. And you look at other forms of motorsports, and yeah, the post race podium celebration, and even like I look at Formula One, like you kind of celebrate the country that you're from too. Playing the national anthem. I think we're most all from America here, but I just think that's a nice added touch. So, yeah, I think there's ways to look at it and make it kind of feel like our own. We're not completely copying other forms of motorsports. But yeah, I think I heard Ross say it, but like it's tough to run top 3, in the Cup Series. So I think it should definitely be celebrated a little bit more. Second and third should be celebrated a little bit more than it is, not only for yourself and your team, but your partners and whatnot. So again, though, I think there's ways that NASCAR can look at making it have their own kind of touch and feel. But yeah, I think we'll see how it goes tomorrow. And yeah, like I thought the Clash thing was awesome to see too. So we've done it before. Just I think we could do it at other places.
Now, I know a lot of you are going to completely, wholeheartedly, vehemently disagree. But I like the idea, because Larson mentioning how Ross said it's hard to win in the Cup Series isn't the first time I've heard that. It is hard to win. So why not reward 2 more people for their achievement? They didn't win, but they did have a really good day. It's not that everyone gets a trophy, it's 2 more people get recognized, which has been commonplace across the spectrum of motorsports. I'm sure I'll hear from you guys in the comments section. And now let's move on to practice and qualifying. And all I have to say is altitude. The altitude with 22% less oxygen at more than 7,000 feet reduces downforce on the cars and provides less power to the engine. You couldn't necessarily see the reduction in power with the naked eye, but you could certainly see guys pushing the limits and having troubles all over the track, including Kyle Busch going off into the grass. It continued in Xfinity Series practice on Saturday, when we had a major storyline develop after Daniel Suarez drove the number 9 junior motorsports car hard into the tire barrier and had to go to a backup car. Fast forward to several hours later after Suarez's Trackhouse teammate Shane van Gisbergen won the Cup Series pole, and the 33-year-old Mexican started 39th in the Xfinity Series race, or dead last. He steadily made his way through the field and at the end of Stage 2 was running up front. Suarez managed to stay on the point through a couple of restarts and fended off an aggressive late move by Taylor Gray to win the race and record a fairy tale finish in his home country. I was really happy for Daniel to see him get the win in the Xfinity Series because I knew it was going to be much harder to do that in the Cup Series on Sunday. Also on Saturday, there were a couple of comments I wanted to talk about. First, we'll start with Carson Hocevar, who was iRacing online and on a Twitch stream and was asked about his trip to Mexico.
So this is what I put. This is how I put it. This whole experience, if the travel was better, if getting here was easier, if you felt safer getting to and from everywhere, if it wasn't such a shithole, if the track limits were a little better enforced, if it was going to be a little bit better of a race and it wasn't so easy to, or feel so locked down like you can't leave anywhere, it would be a great experience. It'd be an absolute great experience. If you take all those out, it's unbelievable. It's great. Green flag. But the track itself is fun. I would say it's fun, but I think it's gonna race. I think it's gonna be super difficult to pass.
That was Hocevar. Later in the evening, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. spotter Tab Boyd took to social media and said this: "I am ready to go home. Screw this place. People can talk it up all they want. Can't even walk out the front door of the hotel without getting hustled and money snatched in less than 5 minutes. Good area, my ass." As of this morning, Boyd's account has been deleted, and Hocevar offered a very different take on his experience, sharing it on X. Quote, "Maybe a kid that had never been out of the country until Thursday should ever give an opinion about what any place is like other than Portage, Michigan. When I answered that question on a stream, I was skeptical about the trip so far and believed everything I read or heard about Mexico City from people who more than likely also had never been here. Now that I've actually left my hotel a couple of times and raced here in front of some of the most passionate fans I've ever seen, my opinion has changed. I am embarrassed by my comments, by the race I ran, and I may have to move here to hide out from Ricky anyway. Count this as another lesson for me in a season I've learned so much. Don't believe everything you hear without seeing it yourself. If anyone should give anyone or any place the benefit of the doubt, it's me. I'm sorry, Mexico City. Consider me an ally going forward and an example of getting off Twitch and seeing things with my own two eyes. Kudos to Hocevar for his remarks and even including a little humor in the process. For the record, as I mentioned in Friday's video, I really enjoyed my time in Mexico back in September besides the getting sick part. I know the drivers all raved about their experiences, including Xfinity Series driver Jeremy Clements, who told me he had a fine experience south of the border and no problems at all. Moving on to Sunday's race, and as is the case before any big race like this, all the drivers gathered together and took this cool photo, memorializing the occasion. Interestingly, moments before the race started, we had another storyline develop when it was revealed that the pole sitter Shane van Gisbergen was going through what I had gone through back in September and was very sick to his stomach. Oh, how I felt his pain. When the race started, it didn't last long as the cars made a single lap before a caution came out due to rain, and the cars went down pit road where all the teams took wet tires. Despite the change of tires on lap 8, Kyle Busch overstepped the line and grip, lost control of his number 8 car and became a bowling ball, bouncing off several cars going into turn 1. Busch was out of the race and finished last. Kyle Larson also suffered heavy damage, and 2 of the potential race winners were out by lap 10. After that caution, Ty Gibbs and SVG battled and traded the lead, but opted to pit before the stage break. The question as the end of the stage approached was, were the teams going to go back to the slicks? In the end, Ryan Preece won the stage, and he was followed by Ryan Blaney, Ross Chastain, Michael McDowell, and Todd Gilliland. During the stage break, the teams did in fact switch back to the slicks. Early in that second stage, we had NASCAR officiating, which has been out of the headlines lately, once again becoming a storyline. What am I talking about? On lap 28, Todd Gilliland went for a spin. There was no caution thrown for that. Now, why do I bring that up? Because now I want to show you what happened 3 laps later on lap 31, when Ryan Truex went for a spin. This one brought out a caution. Now, I saw some saying online that Truex's driver's side door was exposed. I call BS. These guys are professional drivers and can avoid him, as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. proved later. Plus, this is a road course. The typical protocol is unless a car can't move, officials give those involved a chance to get it straight and turn it around. But for some inexplicable reason, they didn't in this case. I'm hoping we hear something about the decision tomorrow when Brad Moran or Elton Sawyer visit SiriusXM NASCAR Radio. With 10 laps to go in the second stage, Austin Dillon got into Joey Logano and sent the number 22 car off into the grass. Take a listen to what the Penske driver had to say.
Got punted.
So Logano got punted by Dillon. There's more on this a bit later. Speaking of Dillon, his brother Ty, with 5 laps to go, was not happy with the moves made by Ryan Blaney and Chase Elliott, taking advantage of the number 10 car.
Fuckers. Calm down, be just fine, please. Pinch him when you get to him.
Tempers were starting to heat up. SVG won the second stage for his second career stage win, followed by Christopher Bell, Alex Bowman, Ryan Blaney, and Michael McDowell. At the start of stage 3, Christopher Bell took the lead on the restart when SVG slid his right front tire and missed the first turn. But that was the last mistake SVG would make. He was the dominant car in that third stage, and something I wanted to point out that I really appreciated in Prime's coverage. With the Trackhouse driver out in front by more than 5 seconds, there was one point for about 10 laps where they didn't even show the number 88 car or talk about him. You could see on the pylon how far out in front he was, but the cameras were showing all the action happening throughout the field. Just really refreshing to see and listen to Dale Jr. and Steve Letarte describe what was happening with the other cars. And there was plenty. Remember Dillon sending Logano off into the grass late in the second stage? With 28 laps to go in the race, the 3-time Cup Series champion got his payback.
Left You're clear. Come on. Well, he got me back.
And then a lap later, we have our dumbest move of the race. Now, I don't know if this is going to be a regular feature we have every week, but we have it this week, and the award goes to Riley Herbst and his spotter for this.
Turn 11. Oh, wow. 35. About 35 turn around in front of us and we found the last. Yeah, I saw that. But you said till the 35 spotter thing.
Absolutely unbelievable how crazy it was to see the number 35 car shoot out in front of Stenhouse, who narrowly avoided hitting him. That could have been bad, but it just goes back to my original point earlier in the race when officials threw the caution for the Truex spin. These guys are professionals. Let them show it and don't put out the yellow so fast. But Stenhouse wasn't done making news, and once again, it wasn't of his own doing. With 10 laps to go, he was unable to avoid the front bumper of his good friend Carson Hocevar, who sent him for a spin in the stadium section. Here's what Stenhouse had to say about it moments after it happened.
Copy. Tell him I will see him in Pocono.
A couple laps later, more tempers flared in the number 19 car of Chase Briscoe, who was not happy with Ross Chastain.
Back in line with you. Half off you, 6 back to the deck. That motherfucker. Just settle back in here, eyes forward, we'll go get the 71.
With 3 laps to go, I heard a crazy stat on the broadcast that said SVG, who had surged out to a 15-plus second lead, was an entire second faster than the rest of the field on each lap. Several laps later, the number 88 car crossed the finish line first with a margin of victory of 16.56 seconds, which is the largest margin of victory for a Cup race since Kurt Busch at Texas in November 2009. An absolutely impressive performance by the New Zealander to win his second career Cup Series race and lock himself into the playoffs. And I think it's interesting to note that his first win back in Chicago in 2023 came under similar circumstances on a first-time track in wet conditions. After the race, he was asked about all the obstacles he had to overcome, including not feeling well before the race.
I felt pretty rubbish today, leaking out both holes. That wasn't fun, but thank you to Safety Culture, Track.
And finally, we'll wrap up with that in-car camera that has gone viral, and the final words from an unhappy Stenhouse when he leaned inside the cockpit of the number 77 car and shared his feelings on what happened and what he was going to do about it. So now the question I have is he going to wait for Pocono, or is he going to beat his ass when he gets back to the U.S.? And has it already happened? I guess we'll just have to wait and find out. All right, guys, that's a wrap on today's episode. I want to get your thoughts about it. First, let's start with those media availabilities. And what did you think of Kyle Larson's remarks? First, on how the Mexico race was a wake-up call to the drivers and forcing them to get out of their comfort zones and hang out with each other and actually get to know one another. And 2, his thoughts on the podium-style celebrations. Would you like to see the top 3 drivers rewarded like he said at the Crown Jewel races, or any races at all? Second, what did you think of the original comments of Tab Boyd and Carson Hocevar, and what's happened since? Boyd deleting his X account and Hocevar changing his tune. And lastly, what did you think of the race overall on Sunday? There was plenty of on-track action, hot tempers, and drama, and domination by SVG. I think from an early look at Jeff Gluck's Good Race poll, it was well received, and I can see no reason why Mexico won't be on the schedule again in 2026. Thanks again for checking out the latest episode and supporting the channel. I really and truly appreciate it and hope you have a great rest of your day.